Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Gaintrust podcast. Before I start, I wanted to just quickly go over sort of who we are and what we do. We're a fitness community that is focused on sort of we have programs, and we sort of support each other in what we do in our lifting, and we put out workouts and everything like that. And once in a while we get on here and we talk to some people who are either in the program or who we find interesting, and talk about all sorts of things, whether it's from politics to fitness to basically just shooting the shit, whatever. Everybody that we have on is incredibly interesting. Today that's no different. Today we have Siraj Hashmi. I have something written out here, so I'm going to just read this, but Siraj Hashmi is a former journalist who many of you know as having had his only scandal being wearing a tan suit. Siraj is known on Twitter as the man behind The List. To those of you who aren't familiar, The List is a collection of people with large platforms whose tweets are worthy of having their phones taken away as punishment. The List was a near instant classic going for what feels like years now. I think it is years now. People fear being on The List, but no one fears The List more than the creator himself, who's frequently atop said list, although not lately, I have to say. Siraj is one of the most self-deprecating and genuinely hilarious Twitter accounts, and I say that without kissing his ass at Jenny. Is surprised me over the years too. One of the funniest accounts that there is, unless you're a blue check. Siraj is a must follow unless you're a blue check, which he's a must block. The guy is blocked by I don't know how many famous people because they all end up on the list and they block him immediately. So he's infamous in the blue check mark, which if you don't know, a blue check is a verified user on Twitter. And usually that means that they're famous or a journalist. It usually means they're a journalist. Siraj, along with Mujahid Kobe, also known as Jay, also known by many other names, have created a media brand and a podcast titled the Habibi Bros. You could almost think of it as a community as well. The List, it's a community similar to how Gaintrust is a community, and that's sort of there's a little commonality there. The two of them parody and discuss current events. They do interviews with really big names of people in the industry, like in politics and whatnot. I've been on there once. Siraj can be found on Twitter at Siraj Hashmi, and his link tree for all of his endeavors can be found in the description. So without further ado, I welcome my guest, Siraj Hashmi, to the podcast. Welcome. I don't know the saying.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome. Hey, dude, honestly, it's gonna be a pleasure having you on.
I appreciate the flattering intro.
Dude, no, I'm serious because I've been following you forever, and it was like it suddenly just compiled into being one of the most genuinely entertaining and funny Twitter accounts. Like, and it's undeniable. So it made sense that you would sort of move past what I would consider just a standard, journalistic career and moving into something which is far more interesting, in my opinion, and far more entertaining, and I think has way bigger legs. But I'm still
trying to figure out what exactly that is. What is the name for that?
What do you mean?
Yeah, moving past the journalist to like, what the fuck am I doing? I can't even explain to my parents what I do. Am I a content creator? What am I?
Yeah, you're being. It's called being famous, honestly. But yeah, I mean, there's yeah. So, do your parents actually, for people who are watching, do they support you and everything that you do?
I mean, do my parents support me?
It's a joke. No, I'm just saying, like, your dad. The big joke.
Which platform do my parents support me? Is it locals? Is it Rumble? Is it YouTube? Is it Twitch?
OnlyFans.
The answer, OnlyFans. Yeah, the answer is none of them. My parents don't support me in any way, shape, or form. They said, get a job, Siraj. Go to medical school, and then once I said I'm not doing that, they were like, all right, you're on your own.
Did you have any plans to do anything medical school wise, or did you sort of?
Yeah.
You did.
Actually, did you do? Actually, yeah. The reason I went to I graduated with a degree in biology from
So you
Dixon
did
College in
pre-med.
2009. Yeah, I did pre-med, and then I went to Georgetown University for a year in a post-bac pre-med program.
Well, that explains the journalism career.
Well, the
No, it
journalism thing, I mean,
Yeah.
I fell into it almost at random because I hit my quarter life crisis in 2012, and I had done a full round of applications to medical school and a bunch of master's programs, and lo and behold, I think I hit a few waiting lists and then didn't get a call back from any of them. I took the MCAT 3 times, and yeah, by any stretch of the means, I am an abject failure when it comes to trying to become a doctor. So,
well, first of all, I didn't know that. So this is breaking, like, to me. I had no, and I feel like I know your story pretty well. I'm going to be asking questions that are going to introduce people who probably also know who you are, but those who haven't, Siraj is a very interesting guy. Siraj, who
would have thought?
Yeah, right. Like, no, but so you did pre-med, and then you took your MCATs a bunch of times. But Georgetown, is that DC? Is there a connection there between is Georgetown DC? Am I correct?
Georgetown, yeah, is a part of DC. It's just a neighborhood within DC.
Yeah, did that have any? Oh, that's the one from The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Anyway, did that have any connection?
May the power of Christ compel you.
That was me. I'm making connections.
I'm gonna throw holy water. At my camera, my webcam, so it remains in focus. If it goes out of focus, you know why.
Did Georgetown? Did that have anything to do with sort of your path towards politics at all? Did that have any connection there?
No, it was purely for medicine. I actually, following Georgetown, I actually worked at a sleep lab for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so studying. So I worked in front office of a sleep lab, and they studied.
Oh, you weren't having the studies done on you. Okay.
No. So I was part of a. So sleep medicine, it's not really highly sought after because not many people have really dealt with sleep doctors. And so basically we had a bunch of people who came in with issues with apnea, insomnia, narcolepsy, just a range of different sleep disorders that we got some very fascinating cases. But for the most part, I would say they are probably the most impatient patients that I've ever dealt with. And the reason for that is when you have fucked up sleep, that fucks up everything. Sorry, can I curse on here?
No, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Fuck yeah, let's go.
Fuck yeah.
No, but like, people really underscore how important sleep is to them. And it's kind of interesting on talking about sleep, given how much my own followers, the Habibis, dunked on me for sleeping so much. But like, you really do need 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night to be like a fully functioning adult. Yeah. And for a lot of people who have apnea, like they're not getting enough oxygen to their brain, so they're waking up all like foggy, and I mean, people die from apnea, unfortunately.
It's very sad. I think I know a few people who've had things like this happen to them, and their lives just sort of spiral. And I don't, it's terrible.
I remember. I think the first time I ever heard of anybody dying from apnea-like complications was are you familiar with Reggie White, the former defensive end? He played for the Eagles and the Packers.
I know the name. The name.
He died in like 2002, 2003 from apnea-like complications. Oh, really sad. I mean, that's football players. I mean, that's why you see so many football players who are who are offensive and defensive linemen slim down to like like you see like Jeff Saturday on like NFL Today. Yeah, because of just like how much weight you put on, that like really impacts your sleep down the line.
Right. It's funny you mentioned getting like 7-8 hours of sleep. Like that's anybody who's because this is a fitness podcast, so anybody who's putting on or trying to put on muscle or just be in shape in general, it's like when you sleep is when you're really recovering and like you build muscle, and that's a huge thing. Like there's some really big time bodybuilders that have like scheduled naps after their workouts because so it's sleep, like you said, it's huge. And I had no idea. That's pretty interesting stuff. But I guess I didn't know anything. Well, I did know a little bit.
I actually didn't think this would tie into fitness, but
yeah, no,
it really does. Yeah,
it really it actually definitely does. In fact, when Ryan and I were putting together, we were thinking of putting together like do's and don'ts, or like really important things in these lists. And one of the things at the very top, you could just say like, oh, get a killer workout in, bro. But like, it really is the number one thing is sleep. It's like really get good sleep, diet, and like third is like working out. But yeah, that's like it is really important to get some sleep. So everybody who's watching after this, go to bed. But what's funny is actually that I can attest to Siraj at least maybe one time not sleeping till 3 because I'm in a group chat with this is me name dropping but I'm in a group chat with Jay and the Habibi Bros, and one morning I wasn't even awake and I get a text message saying from Siraj like it was Siraj and Jay like I'm like something like I'm getting old or something like that. It was like 8 a.m. I'm like, dude, this is not in line with the meme of Siraj. This is not in line with the legend of Siraj. So I believe
that was because I was trying to make a flight, and the only option for a nonstop was basically at 8 a.m. So yeah, I was up at like 5:30, and it's actually interesting. As much shit I get for sleeping in till 2 p.m., which happens like maybe once, maybe twice. I'll never say no to sleeping in. Let's just put it that way. I used to work.
Why would you though?
Well, before it became like this, before I was this, I was an associate producer at Sirius XM Radio, and I was an associate producer for a radio show that was that aired from 6 to 9 in the morning, meaning I had to be there at 5 for prep, which meant I had to get up at 3:30 in the morning every day, Monday through Friday, and then go after that show was done at 9 a.m. I had to go do my 9 to 5 job. So for like 2 years, I did that. And
that was back when Baba was proud of you.
Yeah, that's when Baba was proud of me. Exactly.
Sorry, no, but that's
it's all good. It's funny. But
that's crazy.
I don't want to I'm not trying to put my whole resume out there, but
no, it's cool. It's cool.
It did tie into fit. I think one of the reasons why I became really passionate about getting back into the gym and working out is because I gained like 40 pounds during that 2-year stretch. Just from having to deal with the lack of sleep and then the overeating to compensate for the lack of sleep that I was getting. So I was, drinking, sugary drinks, a lot of coffee, but like a lot of sugar in both of those, eating a lot of carbs, and I wasn't hitting the gym because I'd be so tired. In fact, I think about 2 months into this routine, in which I was doing 2 jobs, a part-time and then a full-time, and waking up at 3:30 in the morning, I actually fell asleep behind the wheel. This is like December 2014. 2 months prior, I totaled my car. That was from a unrelated accident. I just got rear-ended, which of course I know probably a lot of Habibis wanted to do to me. But anyways, when I got a replacement car, my parents, my mom, she had like a car she got as a gift that she never drove. Bubba gave her a gift. That was nice. And she's like, all right, I'll give it to you because like your car's totaled. We don't want to buy you another car. Just take it.
When you're a doctor.
When you're a doctor, you can be proud of it. And so maybe like 2 weeks after having that car, I fell asleep right outside. I fell asleep driving on like Jackson Memorial Parkway. Or is that Stonewall Jackson Parkway? Whatever. The name's probably gonna get changed, but it's a Civil War gem because it's named after a Civil War general.
Look at these.
Anyways,
he's rattling off the jokes.
I fell asleep driving outside the Pentagon and basically crashed right into the median, popped the tire.
Whoa, wait. Are you breaking the news today that it was not actually a plane that flew into the side of the Pentagon?
This is 2014 and never got reported, but there was a second attempt, I guess. There was a second attempt. What can I say?
Oh my God. It was the second attempt. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
No, but actually really quickly, around that time, 2014 as well, I was pushing my limits with college, and I was taking too many classes, and they were kind of too tough for me to like. I was in a little over my head, and I was driving to school one day, and I remember I fell asleep behind the wheel, and I had rear-ended somebody. And so you're saying that this happened to you, and was this like a breaking point or something? Like what resulted?
No, this wasn't even a turning point for me. I'd say the turning point for me was I went to a friend's wedding and I looked at photos of myself and I was like, God damn, Siraj, you fucking ballooned up like crazy. And then I just made the decision, you know what? All right, that's it. I'm gonna turn things around. That was 2016. But like honestly, that was just like I don't exactly I feel like I haven't even really hit my goals yet because
no, not yet.
I'm still like chasing that 26. That was like in 2016. So in 2016, that's when I made a decision. And then I'm 5 years into it, I still feel like I haven't made any progress on that end. So that's kind of why I joined the Gaintrust, because I felt like this was like I need someone to like push me to do this, because obviously I can't push myself that hard enough to get myself in shape. Well, and I realized that just mentally, it's very therapeutic to get to the gym.
Oh yeah. You go to a pretty cool gym, actually. I mean, I've seen pictures or videos of your gym, and it's one of those like very it's almost reminds me of like an outdoor gym that it wasn't outdoor, but it was like a warehouse with
so I was there. And then I moved into a new into a new community. Yeah. And now they basically have a gym there. So I'm like, why should I pay for a membership? It's all right. It's okay. Yeah. It gets the job done. I still have to lobby for a split squat / bench rack. Yeah. So they just don't have that.
That's on. You have to do that. I want to get you to the point. All right. I have 2 goals. All right. Yeah. One, I want you to be more jacked than Base Siraj. All right. We all know who that is. Do you know who Base Siraj is?
I mean,
What's his name? Forget it. There's a guy.
Pedro Gonzalez.
Pedro. We got to get you bigger than Pedro. That's one thing. And he's doing really well. That's one thing. The other goal I want you to get to is, yes, your home gym, the one that's really pretty good. I want you to be like, I want to go to the grittiest, most disgusting meathead gym, because like the point I'm trying to make.
Very good. The one I was going through was very gritty and very meathead.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need it. I don't think at the beginning of like a journey that you need to go to a place like that. I think midway to almost at your like you're really into it, going to a gym like that, I think can like really just psych you up. And you go there and you see all these juice heads, and you're just like it can be very inspiring. But yeah, I mean, I'm having you join Gaintrust was like one of the coolest things. Like I was just like, I've just been a fan of yours forever. And I was like, I've been friends with Jay for a bit longer, and I was like, how great would it be if Siraj joined, and like, and everything like that. But so yeah, it's been really cool having you in the group. It's really...
I appreciate that, man. In all honesty, I know you say you're a fan, but like, I just view you as a friend. Like I don't really I really see you.
No,
I mean, even before that, I was like, maybe this guy could help me in reaching my fitness goals. And we had him on the show. Election night, and he was real.
Before then, I was just a fan, and then we became friends. But that was cool. Like on election night, I was on the Habibi Power Hour on election night, and that was the night that they became Twitch partners, which was a pretty big night. And that was an awful night. I don't know how you. Yeah, you didn't have a dog in the fight, remember? But that was the joke. That was the joke. I don't have a dog in the fight, but then he like has Ern there, like his dog Ernie.
Yeah, and I'm out of focus. There we go. Blurry again.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, man. So you're in the beginning of your fitness journey now that you're settled more, right? Or are you still flying all over the place?
I mean, I'm not flying anywhere, but I am dealing with a lot of like first time homeowner stuff.
Yeah.
So that's definitely impeded some of my goals, but it's coming together. And also in like the last week. So my birthday is on Thursday. I'm turning 34.
Oh,
And thanks, man. Don't get me anything. Don't even get me. Don't get me shit. The
get
only
you that
person
squat rack.
Yeah, give me that squat rack. I noticed like just in the last week, my back and knees are like really like I don't even know how to explain it, but like, is this what age is supposed to feel like? Because they feel really messed up now. I don't know,
man.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that getting back into the gym will at least get me feeling a little bit better. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think so. I think if you just take it slowly and you don't go crazy, I mean, like you don't want to be lifting like 500 pounds with on your back. So that's like, but just take it nice and slow, and just it's just
but
part
I did take Ernie with me to DC and back, so maybe that would explain it.
Oh, really? What, you had to carry him a lot, or?
Yeah, because I had him in a little carrier bag.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure that he's the reason why my knees and back are fucked up. So
I'm sorry to hear that, man. Okay. But I wanted to talk about you grew up in Pakistan. You were born in the United States though, correct?
I was. So the too long didn't read version of my life story. Born in Connecticut, lived there until I was 8, so that's 1995. And then I lived in Pakistan from 95 to 2001. And then we came back right after 9/11 because it simply got too dangerous to live there. I wrote about it.
Really?
Yeah, the Taliban actually put the Taliban and Al Qaeda actually put a bounty on my on all American heads in both Afghanistan and Pakistan. So like within 10 days after being there on 9/11, from 9/11, we had to get the hell out of Dodge. And so everything that happened in the past month in Afghanistan with the Taliban taking over, yeah, I took it pretty hard. Just because there is, while yes, getting out of Afghanistan I felt was a good decision overall, it was the way we left that really just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And sort of empowering the Taliban empowers other radical Islamic extremists, and that's not good for us in the long term, I think. So
no, it was a disaster, and I don't blame you for having it, an especially kind of rough time with that. That's pretty incredible stuff that you guys were there at the do you actually think you would still have grown up there? I mean, well, two questions. Did you enjoy it? Was it really, did you love it there? And
pre 9/11? So Pakistan is a very interesting place. It is unlike any place I have ever been. I don't know if you've ever been to that part of the world. I assume you haven't, but think of it like Newark.
I was actually gonna say something like snarky, like I've been to Newark.
Yeah, you've been to Newark. Yeah, no, it's just, they're good places, they're good pockets and they're bad pockets, but it's mostly bad pockets, and it's just, it's just a broken country. I mean, it's a lot of corruption. The powerful elite are constantly just bankrupt, robbing the country's funds and embezzling money, and so they don't have anything to really like put into education or infrastructure, or really the only money they've basically been investing has been in military because they got nuclear weapons somehow. Yeah. So I will tell you, one of the more interesting parts about being in Pakistan is that I lived there during its I want to say it was either the 99 or 2000 military coup, when the prime minister at the time, Nawaz Sharif, was ousted the first time, put under house arrest, and then the Pakistani military implemented martial law, and Pervez Musharraf declared himself president and was president for like the next 8 years. Then the motherfucker went on Daily Show during the midst of his presidency, and then I think only in like the last year Musharraf, I think, was sentenced to he was like found guilty by the Pakistani Supreme Court of treason, but it was like a guilty abstention abstention conviction, meaning that he was out of the country. So if he ever returned to the country, they probably would execute him. So that's the type of like political environment. That's the type of political environment that Pakistan's in. They basically make corruption in the United States look like child's play. But that's like the same deal with almost every single there's so many countries like that. But I will say I growing up there was rather intense because I had to adjust with just growing up for one, and then dealing with the culture shock and not understanding a lick of Urdu, despite being Muslim and having a dad who's Pakistani. So it was not the easiest thing to make friends there, but on the bright side, there are a lot of people I made friends with. I will say though, probably the best thing that has come out of Pakistan for me has been the development of the Pakistani accent, the Baijan accent that I say on, I come on here, Gaintrust, and I say to you, Michael, sir, you're a very fit guy. You're most sexy. You're so sexy. Show me how can I be you when I grow up? Show me. I want to be you when I grow up. I want to have muscle. I want the girls. I want the girl here, there. I want to be like Bill Clinton. He has 1,000 girlfriends.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you need me to show you, I'll show you how to do it, Mister.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Do you have does that character have a name?
No, it's just my Baijan accent. That's just my Pakistani accent. Like it's something I perfected in college, which was oddly enough in Pennsylvania. But I finally figured out that I could do that.
It's good. It's good.
And I had never done it. I had never done it until college, even though I lived in Pakistan for for 6 years. Yeah.
You came over to the United States as a freshman in high school. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's pretty like you grew up in Pakistan. Like you really had to develop. I mean,
so here's where like I wasn't like in Pakistan for 6 years straight. There were a lot of things in which I was actually in the US for. So like during the summers, I would come back to Connecticut with the fam, go to summer camp, and then like just pick up all our shit and go right back. So we come back like we come back for like 2 months in the summer and then go back to Pakistan. And then maybe we come back for like the winter break for me, like a week or two. Because again, I still have a lot of family. I still have a lot of family out here. And there was 1 year in between. I think we were actually going to come back, I think for good in like 1998, 99, because my maternal great grandmother, she was nearing the end of her life. And so I was in 6th grade. So there was an entire year of 6th grade that I did in Connecticut. So I guess, I usually say it's 6 years on and off in Pakistan. And, but, for like 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, all Pakistan, 7th, 8th, Pakistan.
So chat, who looks more white, me or Siraj?
Definitely me. I mean,
just look.
Just look. I don't even have it. I have like no chest. Like it's so blurry, you still can't see any chest there.
That's good. When you have like sick pecs, you don't want any chest hair. People are like, "Oh, chest hair is sexy." No, it's not. Just shave everything and be jacked. Yeah. And that's the way to go. But I so it sounds like you had just a pretty interesting, a very worldly upbringing, which that's pretty unique in and of itself. Did you deal with any? See, there's like Norm Macdonald just died, right? And I don't know if you were a fan of his. I was a huge fan of his.
Yeah, I was a big fan.
What was your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, just I guess sadness really, because I didn't know that he had gone through 9-year. He doesn't want to call a battle with cancer because he probably frowned upon that. But right, I mean, he was one of the few comedians that I felt was a bit. I feel was slept on by the masses. I mean, I think when he was on SNL and then he got fired by SNL and then he came back for a hosting gig. I remember his early work with I remember for some reason I always remember the film he did with what's his name, with Adam Sandler, Billy Madison. And there's always a quote, I think it's like, after Billy Madison passed the first grade, there's always a line I remember, and I tell this to like my nieces and nephews when they do something well, like if they do something. So like the line was like, man, the first thing my dad said to me after I passed the first grade was to get a job. And, and so that's what I say to my nieces and nephews every time they do something good. They're like, see, uncle, I painted this, or see, uncle, I made this. Like, great, now get a job. Like that's just my immediate response.
What's today? I don't know, October.
Yeah, man, October, exactly.
I was a huge fan of his, man. I remember I actually, people, because what's funny was that, you know, people now are very familiar with the moth joke. Like now that he's passed, everybody knows the moth joke. No one knew the moth joke like, you know, years ago. So I would always, like, my family and stuff like that, we would, like, you know, like my brother's in-laws and my family, we'd all be like, you know, we all went somewhere. It was like a hotel, and I had like this captive audience, and I was like, I got a joke. And I even do like the voice. I got a joke for you guys, you know? But anyway, what was the point of bringing up Norm Macdonald? I had a point.
Was it about him working out? Because I don't think he did a whole lot of working out.
I don't think it was the working out thing. It was something to do
I think it had to do with Norm Macdonald telling The View that Bill Clinton was a murderer. Was it that?
What was that about, actually? No, I'm just curious. What in the news was that about? Like, did Bill Clinton, was he known for like killing a guy or something?
Well, you know, like the Vince Foster thing was the one thing that people tried to tie to, like, Vince Foster was a former Clinton aide who allegedly killed himself.
Of course, the Clinton
like
family.
one of the parks that's just off, just right by Langley, right by the CIA, and there have been a lot of suspicions that the Clintons like hired a hitman or something like to kill him.
Yeah, and
I don't know why, but I think Norm Macdonald was alluding to that.
Yeah.
On The View, and like Barbara Walters and Star Jones and Joy Behar were just losing their shit because they couldn't understand why he would say such a thing.
That was amazing. That was back when, like, is that Calamity? Is that Calamity Kate?
No. That's that is not Calamity Kate. But I do know which Kate that is. I don't want to dox anybody.
There was what was it again? It was not the moth joke. It was, you know what? I'm having a hard time like with simple recall at the moment. I don't think doing the like 500-pound deadlifts before this is helping.
Yeah, that was probably not a smart idea.
Like right before I came on, I was like, I'm gonna deadlift. Like that sounds like a good idea. I'm gonna lose it.
Well,
but,
Katie gave me the green light, so she said reveal me. Yeah, it's Kate Hyde.
Wait a second, why is that name so familiar?
Because she has a fucking baller Twitter.
Kate Hyde.
It's like Kate Hyde, New York. Kate Hyde, NY.
Oh wow! Okay. There she is. She follows me. Oh my god. Geez, man. I like doing like Norm jokes, and I had one lined up, and I'm not gonna be able to do it now, but I'll probably remember it later. We'll come back to it.
Okay, that's fine.
So if people who don't know Siraj, everybody in here who's watching right now, most people know Siraj and everything about him. You know his the list and everything. But for those of you who don't know what the list is, give a quick overview of what it is and how it came about. How did it start? And I guess I'll ask some questions after that about. Highlights.
Yeah, so the list that was just I am known on Twitter for shit posting a lot, and for those who are not familiar with shit posting, it is posting with the least amount of effort for the most amount of impact. So I'd say that the argument for I guess like if I could boil down shit posting is it is that shit posting is tweeting without thinking, really, or like some of the most like it could be the most inflammatory stuff to or like overreaction to some of the stuff that's just like not. I don't know. There's no like one single way to define it. But anyways, the list was originally meant to be a shit post because it was. I saw a tweet from George Conway. And if you're not familiar with George Conway was the husband of Kellyanne Conway. Kellyanne Conway is a senior advisor of the Trump White House. She was there for, I want to say, the entire Trump. I think up until like maybe like August 2020, but she was there for the very beginning. She was on the campaign. She was there throughout the administration up until 2 months before the election in 2020. And what had happened was this is December 2019, and Kellyanne tweets out a video of Joe Biden, talking about Ukraine, and this is in the middle of the Trump whistleblower Ukraine affair and the impeachment inquiry going into. Oh my God, Katie says least amount of effort with the most amount of impact is what a terrorist says about their attacks. Holy shit.
I'm just like silently putting these up here.
Yeah, I see that. So when it comes to this particular tweet that Kellyanne sends out, she shows how, like Joe Biden is talking about like his, withdrawing funds or money or aid or an aid package from Ukraine. And she was just dunking on him some way. But the catch, the big punchline to that tweet that Kellyanne posted says, "We need Ukraine's help to beat this guy." And George Conway quote tweeted Kellyanne tweeting, Your boss apparently thought so. To which I thought, oh fuck, you're gonna dunk on your wife on Twitter? Like that's where we're going.
Yeah.
And so
that's just
I was
sad.
like, this guy really needs his phone taken away. And I just like made a power ranking of people who need their phones taken away. I put George Conway at 1. I acted like it like always existed. So George Conway was 1. He like moved up from number 2. I had Donald Trump at number 2, and he was previously at number 1.
I hated how often you had Donald Trump on that list. I was such a I was so partisan, and I would be like I would follow and unfollow you each week depending on who was on the list. I was so petulant about it. I'm like, how dare you?
People get very mad at the list.
Yeah. No, but it was brilliant. It was brilliant.
But I will say, so and then I had me on there. I think I had Charlie Kirk on there, and I think I had Seth Mandel on there, just like to troll him because he was a colleague of mine at the time at the Examiner, and there was only 5. There was only 5 people, and then I just did it the next day. And then I did it the next day after that. And then Jason Russell, who was one of my friends and one of my also I used to work with him at the Examiner. He said, "At them, you coward." I was like, "All right." Like, so okay. the next day, I added them, and then I think by the end of the week, I expanded it from 5 to 10, and then just kept doing it every day. And I had like these, I didn't always list the tweet at the bottom, but what I did was I would put the writing hand emojis initially, and that went on for a little bit. But the best part about it was the people freaking out about it. I think what really made the list what it is, and really made people start to understand what it was I was doing, was when I would hit them with the 3 writing hand emojis. I tweet it in their replies, and I quote tweet them with it.
Yeah.
And then I add them at the end of the day to that list where I thought they had the worst tweet of the day. And the very first time I received the most, I got this, I got like the most insane freak out from a woman, a journalist by the name of Erin Bebo. And this I obviously won't forget because it was the very first time it ever happened. But what she tweeted out was basically like a Wikipedia article to like the 1932 Nuremberg laws, in which, you know, Jews would be subject to, you know, all types of discrimination and new laws based in Nazi Germany because they're Jewish. And she tweeted that in response to the Trump administration, as particularly President Trump, implementing an executive order to combat anti-Semitism on college campuses. So I don't know how she like lost all of her information from a New York Times article that was inaccurate, because the New York Times article stated that Jews are going to be, you know, deemed like a nationality or something like that. And Erin Bebo is Jewish. So she flipped the fuck out when I put her on the list. She flipped out because I put her on the list with like a bunch of people on the right as well, like Stefan Molyneux, who like tweeted out that really weird fucking Taylor Swift tweet about her being, you know, having like, you know, she still has a few years left to bear children, like some weird shit like that. And so she got really fucking pissed at me. And there was like all types of people that were like, you know, hopping in their mentions. And she initially, what happened was she had DM'd me, and I'll never forget this. She like said I basically encouraged her to reach out to me through a friend. And so she did. She reached out to me. She DM'd me. And so she messaged me this whole diatribe saying like how, like, you know, hurt she is by all this stuff. Like I had never met this woman before. Okay.
that's like crazy ex-girlfriend stuff.
Never even interacted with her before.
She must have had a crush on you, man. She was probably devastated.
I have no idea who this person was. She was like one of those Gawker or Gizmodo journalists, you know, part of that ilk.
Oh, okay.
So she gives this whole thing, and I said, look, I know there's not a whole lot I can say right now that will make you feel better, but what's helped me in the past has been basically increasing my quality filter. And so she responds back saying, I poured my heart out to you, and this is how you respond? We're done here. And then blocked me.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ.
But here's where it gets even better. And I mentioned Seth Mandel before, because he obviously got what the list was, and he thought it was really funny. And I think he was one of the original people who recommended I list this particular person. I went through a burner account. I don't know if it was Ernie's. It might have been Ernie's. Ernie's not.
It wasn't.
Ernie's is the main account. Let's be real.
It wasn't. I was gonna say it wasn't Jay. What was it? The random J thoughts or something like that, like the random J tweets or out of context J tweets.
Oh yeah, out of context J. Yeah, no, it wasn't out of context J.
Those are great.
But I need to pick that back up again. But it was so Seth sent me a screenshot of Erin Bebo's tweet later on that evening, actually, because this happened maybe in like the span of like a couple hours. And her screenshot said, I'm going to be logging off for the next few days. And then I messaged Seth, and this is the first time I ever said this. I said, the list works.
And we all know
the list works. And then from then on, I understood that once people like are so like this, you know, basically so exhausted that they have to log off or their account gets suspended, the list works.
You're basically taking their phones away.
Exactly. So like I may not physically be taking it from them, but they are so disgusted they're so like all the backlash that they have received has been so intense that they have no choice but to not tweet. So
So that was the first big reaction, right? That was the first big reaction. What's been probably the most? What would you say was the most far-reaching event that came out of the list? Like, what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, Donald Trump DM'd you and was like, "I don't deserve to be on the list." What was the most far-reaching one that you just didn't think would have any effect? You know, minus blocking, because blocking's easy. I got blocked from people today that I've never thought I would be. But
one of the Habibis just brought it up. It was Ilhan Omar.
Shit! Oh, that's right. I remember this.
Yeah, that was a year and a half ago.
I remember
very early on in the pandemic, and Ilhan Omar tweeted "Subhanallah," an Arabic term which means "good God," or well, actually, the actual definition of it is "God is perfect," but "Subhanallah" typically, in the context that it was used, it means "good God," like, you know, you're shocked. And she was reacting, obviously, to the impact of COVID or the lockdown. Something. It was a bad story, obviously, she was reacting to. But a lot of her critics were dunking on her, and I am actually one of her bigger critics. I have written plenty of stories about how awful I think she is and how anti-Semitic I think she is. And yet, in spite of that, I went to bat for her. I defended her on this because I thought she was being unfairly railroaded for people taking subhanallah and basically.
Was it Bridget Gabriel who did that? Or?
No, it was like Yasmin Mohammed was one person, and I think she was the one person I remember engaging with. Now, she followed me for a bit, and then she unfollowed me, I think, because of that interaction. And blocked me.
And you basically cleared up to people that the thing that Ilhan Omar said was not actually some dog whistle or something like that to, Muslim terrorism. But it was sort of just like
it wasn't her taking joy in bad news, is what I was saying.
Yeah.
I was like, I've said it tons of times. I've heard, my family members have said it tons of times. I've had friends who said it tons of times. And then after I did that, Ilhan Omar responds to me. She replies with like half a dozen writing hand emojis.
So she's been following. That's awesome.
And
that's really cool.
And I had no fucking clue what to do. It was a moment. It was a you had to be there moment on Twitter. And
I remember that.
It was. I still don't know how to react to that to this day, because how the fuck did she know? How the fuck did she know? Did she just like?
She's probably clued into like the movers and shakers of like I don't want to be sounding sensitive, but like Islamic Twitter or something like that, or like
maybe, I don't know, but like that was. It was one of those things where, like, the list at that point was like only 4 months old. It was not something that was canon at that point. This is March 2020, and to this day, I still don't know. Like, I tried to engage with her afterwards, and it was something along the lines, because I listed her earlier for a tweet she made. And I can't remember the exact tweet, but I basically, since I had her attention, I started engaging with her and responding. I was like, all right, Congresswoman, can you like elaborate or explain or something like this? Or like, I said something along the lines of like, give me your phone. And then she responded, not a chance, son. And I was like, did she really say that? Did she really tweet that?
That's so cool.
Yeah, so like, it's one of those things where like just the moment I can't say anything to top just the moment. There's like nothing I can say that would put me in a good position. I just had to take the dunk. So
that's pretty cool. I mean, even the dunk is pretty cool.
It was funny. It was really funny for when it happened, and I laughed at it. I didn't take it seriously. I'm sure there's some people, DC is chock full of people who are like super uptight, super serious, and I'm just not one of those people. And I'm sure there are a lot of people who would have been like, oh, I don't want to know what to do in that moment. Well, you could have just been like me and just like dogpile on yourself, because that's pretty much how I went.
Did you put yourself on the list that next week? Were you at the top of the list?
Yeah, I have no idea actually, because there was so the first month that I did the list, so this was all of December 2019, I was on the list every single day. And then I started hearing complaints from people being like, Siraj, you're taking up a spot from a more deserving candidate. You should, you should retire your jersey and just always just be de facto on the list. You're always a given, and just give it to someone else who needs it. And then I basically held a poll at the end of the year, at the beginning of 2020. It's been like, should I just have my jersey retired and give my spot to someone more deserving? And people voted, yeah, just retire your jersey.
That's pretty cool.
So every time, like, if you were like there in the beginning, I'm always on the list. But the people who like came in late and don't always know, they're like, Siraj, why don't you put yourself on the list? I always have that meme queued up from the Avengers. You got Bruce Banner telling Captain America, he's like, that's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry. It's like, that's my secret. I'm always on the list.
Yeah, that's good. That is good. Who's been so Jen Rubin is, I mean, what's it gonna take? What's it gonna take to get her on, on just the Habibi Power Hour or whatever? You guys have, I feel like she's had to have seen it by now. If anybody who doesn't know, isn't familiar with politics on the level that I think we are, Jen Rubin is this commentator who has been billed as this conservative commentator who, blah, blah, blah. And I don't think I've heard her say a single conservative thing in all of my time following her for like 4 or 5 years now. And she is always on the side of the Democrats, and she like hates everything right wing, like literally everything. But she does, her and people who refer to her, in her little circles, basically, say she's a conservative because she's in with people like Bill Kristol and lots of neocons. And so, so she is one of the most amazing Twitter accounts in politics, I think. And the reason for that is because she is just she's a true believer in the shilling of politics. Mm-hmm. She's just steadfast. She's unblinking, unflinching. She's full steam ahead to just support this sort of I don't even know. I guess a political establishment is what you would call it.
Yeah, so, Jennifer Rubin has had an interesting revolution or evolution, I should say, not revolution, but she has had one of those careers where no matter what, like, she's figured out a way to make everyone hate her. And I don't know how she's been able to, I don't know how she's been able to amass a huge following, but I mean, she was one of those big neocons, very big, very pro-Bush, Bush 43, very anti-Obama. And then when Trump came into office, she just flipped on a dime and became this never Trump Republican. And then she just quickly shifted focus to becoming a Democrat. And everyone's capable of like changing their views over their career or over their life. There's nothing wrong with that. People evolve all the time. But the way Jennifer Rubin does it is just so shameless. And I almost like am impressed by how shameless she is. And I cannot, like, there's nothing you can say to Jen Rubin to make her feel shame. So at that point, I'm going to stand and simp for Jen Rubin, because you have to almost like, all right, what is the most Jen Rubin take you could possibly imagine? And the one, like, what's the most Jen Rubin tweet you can ever envision? And the first thing that comes to mind is her replying to then Governor Andrew Cuomo. It looks like the boyfriend is dressed nicely and the girls ate their spaghetti and meatballs. Like, that's the first thing. You're like, Jen.
Oh my God.
Never change.
Yeah, never change.
Ever change. This is just, by the way, I stepped so hard for Jen Rubin that my Call of Duty gamer tag in Black Ops Cold War is Jen Rubin 69.
I did not know that.
Not many people do, but if you have watched me stream COD Cold War, it's Jen Rubin 69.
Update: Siraj's wife left him for Jen Rubin. Would you even be upset about that? Would you even be upset? I feel like you would just be like, I get it.
I mean, I would be shocked of all people that she would go for Jen Rubin just because, like, yeah, I would be shocked by that one.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I can see my wife leaving me for any number of reasons, but for Jen Rubin, that one would be definitely shocking.
I want you to get her. I want you to get her on the Habibi podcast.
I really hope she does. I think, she hasn't blocked me, but I think she probably muted me very early on. I don't know why.
Even if she did, though, the Habibis have been relentless, and there's plenty of really funny memes. Oh, and that's the other thing about following Siraj and the Habibis is I've never seen such talent for memeing, like the
President Mitch.
Yeah. Oh, right. No, he's a genius.
Yeah. Mrs. Brassenstein, Richard Harambe.
Yeah.
Fuzzy Taylor, but it was Fuzzy Dunlop. You got Holy Smokes, aka Cox, Haas.
Yeah.
Richard Harambe. I already said Richard Harambe, Mrs. Brassenstein. A bunch of them. They're all very talented and they all do really good work. And if you ever check out the Habib Discord server, we literally have a channel just dedicated to list memes and people memeing the shit out of me, putting my face and everything.
It's a factory of comedy, man.
It's wild because people actually in the beginning, like the very first list meme I think came from Fuzzy, and it was like an old image of I want to say like a Iranian revolutionary. It was like an image, a drawing, if you will, black and white. It looked very obviously intimidating, and it was they had like the finger over their mouth saying shh, and they had a sword in their hand. But what Fuzzy did was he changed the sword to a pen, writing it. So you had to write it, and they just wrote the list. And then in Arabic, he had the list in translation. So
many good ones.
Wow, someone said no Siraj nudity, losing interest fast. Fine, you want to get it? All right, fine. Let's fucking go.
Oh my god, we're gonna be what's it called? Demonetized or whatever. Have you come across a lot of issues with that, with the Habibi Power Hour and all that stuff?
We get demonetized all the time.
All the time, really? And that's what
you want to know why we get demonetized? It's solely because of the music we used. I haven't changed the intro song for the entire time that we had the show. So I need to change that so that Jay and I can actually make money from our videos, which we haven't been able to do.
now that's the one that's like that's copyrighted, huh?
Yeah,
that's a shame. That video for the Taliban press, if I can find that, would that be something you want to share with everybody? So
well, unless you want to get demonetized too.
No, maybe not. But yeah, man, I think that if you keep pressuring on the Jen Rubin thing, I think she might eventually come around. And when that happens, I mean, I think
inshallah,
it's over.
I'm hoping.
Inshallah, for sure. So Siraj, everybody knows his biggest scandal was wearing a tan suit. All right. That was his biggest scandal. It wasn't his droning of, oh no, thinking of somebody else. Siraj left the Examiner as, doing his journalistic career. And then he formed, like we were saying, the Habibi Power Hour, the Habibi Bros thing. How did that actually come about and where is that going? Because it's exciting, especially Rumble, being on Rumble with big names. I mean, you were included with Glenn Greenwald, Tulsi Gabbard, like a presidential hopeful. You know what I mean? Like someone who took down Kamala Harris, but it wasn't good enough. Apparently, she was picked off the garbage heap, and now she's our vice president. But you know, the woman who destroyed Kamala Harris was lumped in with you and Greenwald, and mentioned in like, you know, headlines like going over to Rumble. You know, so it's a pretty big deal. It's really interesting to see, you know, what's going on. So I guess, how did that come about, and the decision to start that, and sort of, you know, where's it going?
Yeah. So honestly, I don't know how Glenn and I linked up, but it happened earlier this year, right before I left the Examiner. And Katie says Siraj's biggest scandal was the tense until he found out tonight he drove his car into the Pentagon. Yeah.
I want to see the memes for this so bad.
Oh God, there's gonna be too many. Yeah. Someone's gonna have to get basically a clips of this, probably of the nip slips of panic. Instead
of the, hold on a second. So, you know, real quickly, do you know the whole like conspiracy theory that it was like cruise missiles that shot into the Pentagon?
I heard about that. Yeah.
All they're gonna have to do is like get those, like, you know, it's like 3 frames, like when they were saying like the plane hit right in the Pentagon. It's like 3 frames, like boom, 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 and it's, you can't really see much. All they gotta do is put like the writing hand pencil as like the cruise missile. Like, all right. So anyway, I gave you guys a free meme. let's move on. I want to hear.
Can I tell you? I have had someone had made a 9/11 list meme for me, and I've never used it because of how bad that is. Like I don't even remember who made it.
You talking about this recent anniversary?
No, I'm talking about when list memes were first coming about in like the spring of 2020, because everybody was in lockdown and nobody was doing anything. And I was just like listing people for all their dumb takes because everybody couldn't escape being online. So they decided that they were just going to go ahead and tweet their shitty opinion and flip out. That was when I received like the most list memes ever, because it started happening. Like everybody was thinking of different ideas, like, oh, this would go great in this, you know, this would go great in that. And someone legit sent me a 9/11 list meme, which I'm like even too afraid to like share and describe because of just how insensitive it is. So.
It is still even me, man. Like 9/11, it's 20 years, right? And I grew up in New Jersey. I'm here in New Jersey, and yeah, that's pretty close to home. I mean, like our fire department is here. All were dispatched to go, and we knew a guy. Not to be sidetracked, I want to hear about the BB Bros, but his name is Chris Amoroso, and he's like, if you ever seen, I think it was Amoroso, jeez. But if you ever see any of these like 9/11 recreation movies where they actually use like all the names of the people and everything like that, the firemen. He's one of the characters in like all the movies because he was one of the last people to go into the buildings. And he was the brother of a girl I went to school with, and we watched it live on TV in homeroom. You know what I mean? So like, and a quick story. I always find this interesting, and I think it's worth, you know, sharing. It's like one of the weirdest days ever. I mean, I know it was weird for everybody, but it was strange because it happened, and then like kind of classes just kept going, and it was just everyone was weirded out. And I remember asking a guy, you know, it was like lunch, and I asked like one of these like teachers who actually ended up having the next year. His name was Mr. Higginson, and we were all like scared. We're like asking like, you know, Mr. Higginson, like what's happening? And he's the guy gave us like the most. Like the answer he gives was so brutal and like just so callous. He's like, "They're gone. They're on the ground. No more." I was like, "Oh my God!"
Holy
like even
shit.
as a kid, I knew that was. I was like, you know, I was in 7th grade. I was like, even then, I was like, "That's inappropriate." Like, you know, like you're supposed to be like an adult. Like he's probably around my age when it, you know.
I would
never, you know.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna. I didn't. Because I was in Pakistan when 9/11 happened, I didn't even think about like what I didn't even think about it till now, until you just mentioned it. Like, you had the rest of the day, to sort of figure out what happened. Basically, everything sort of wrapped up for me like in the evening, just based on like the time difference. And then I basically like went to bed and I couldn't sleep. And like you guys then had to like go about your day. God,
you want to know what it looked like for most people?
What's that?
This is what it was for most people, right? Like, okay, so it happened in the morning and you had all day, right? And this is a recreation of what it looked like for most people.
I don't know if I want to see this.
Just like I'm looking into the TV. This is most people. All day, all night, just tears, and everybody was just staring into the void, and like moms especially were like, there's actually a meme on not a meme, but there's a South Park episode where they show the mom, Stanley's mom, right, Mrs. Marsh, and she's just like on the couch, like, you know, with her head
laying on,
like completely traumatized, like you know, like that was how it was. Like everybody was just staring at their TVs. Their looks on everybody's faces were just, it was a really, really crazy day. And
I can't even imagine. Just like based on how awful that day was. But man, what a pivot from Rumble to then talking about 9/11.
Yeah. I loved okay, let's pivot to Norm Macdonald again. Norm Macdonald, he would go, one of his jokes was like, the joke was basically how 9/11's not funny, right? And he would go, you look at like Adam Egget and, you know, his sidekick, and he'd be like, you know, like 9/11's not something to joke about, you know. It's like blah blah blah. And he's like very somber, and Adam's going along. He's like, yeah, man, it's a terrible, you know. And then he's like pauses and goes, 9/11, and they both just crack up. I don't know why. It's like it was like the first
his
time.
Delivery. I remember that
bit.
His delivery was next level.
They just next level. Cracking up. 9/11, and they just like crack the fuck up. But it's but anyway, so
shifting back to fucking Rumble.
I like I like Rumble, and I said this the other day. I said Rumble reminds me of early YouTube, where it was like a kind of a interest. It was like they were trying, like they're trying in YouTube, but like they were trying to like create a community feel where it was like this is what's trending in funny videos, and like this is what's trending in politics. Now it's just like we know your brain, this is what you want to see, and it's like now you watch all that stuff. But Rumble's sort of reminds me of early YouTube, which is kind of has this interesting charm to it. So I'm actually finding myself just going over there just for the fun of it now. And you're on there, and actually Rumble was, you know, they brought you in, and like I said, all these other people, Glenn Greenwald, Tulsi Gabbard, I think a few others. So yeah, how did that start? 9/11.
9/11. Yeah. It all started because of 9/11. I talked to Glenn. So Glenn and I linked up earlier this year. No, I think what I did when I left the Examiner, I sort of like reached out to a bunch of different people, and then I just let them know before I made an announcement that I was gonna be leaving the Examiner, and I wasn't like looking for anything from them. I just wanted to, you know, give them a heads up, just because my father-in-law, I'm actually very close to my in-laws. He told me that, you know, you just reach out to all these people and just let them know that you are planning on doing something before you make a public announcement. Like, they'll really appreciate it. So I just like started doing that for a bunch of people. Glenn started following me, I want to say earlier in the year, because of the list. I can't exactly remember what it was that I did, but I reached out to him, and then he like had all these different ideas for me and talked about collaborating. He's like, oh, you should like, you know, check out, you know, write for my Substack. And I was like, that's great. Thanks so much, Glenn. Appreciate it. Like, that's like real honor. And then I was like, actually would love to get you on Habibi Power Hour. And I know you had a book published recently. I'd love to talk about it and your experience in being in Brazil and reporting on Jair Bolsonaro, who's the president of Brazil and who basically was the main beneficiary of Operation Car Wash, which was this massive corruption probe that ended up being corrupt in and of itself. And very fascinating book. He wrote a book called Securing Democracy. If you haven't actually read it, it's a very good book for people who are not really familiar with how Brazilian politics works. So it's a good book for that. And then sort of he talks about his reporting on this sort of, so like he got not just one big scoop with the Snowden leak, he got a second huge scoop with this leak about Operation Car Wash. And so he basically exposed how corrupt the investigators were. It's like exposing the Mueller probe. It's like exposing how corrupt the Mueller probe is or was. If there was like reached that level of corruption, of course there were, you had your Peter Strzok's, you had your Lisa Pages, there were elements within the Mueller probe in which they definitely had an agenda that was more partisan in nature than it was, say, investigative in nature. And so these investigators, they were basically collaborating with all the judges to try to seek all these convictions, and they fabricated a lot of fucking evidence against a lot of different people, including the former president Lula. And so we had Glenn on to talk about it. I know I was kind of getting off track there, but I felt like it was. I felt it was obviously very important to bring up because Jay and I had a very good discussion about it with him on Habibi Power, and that sort of like opened the floodgates right there. So he saw what we were able to do, saw how well the conversation was, and then I wrote a piece for his Substack, and then I launched my own Substack in the process. Just one of like 69 different platforms I'm on.
Yeah, look at his link tree.
Yeah, just look at the fucking link tree. God, I really need to
It's like that. The General Sherman of link trees.
It's so bad. In any event, Glenn reached out to me in July. It was like, hey, there's this opportunity that is happening at Rumble, and I thought you'd be really a good fit for it. And I'm going to be doing it, and a bunch of other people I know are going to be doing it. You want to join us? I was like, yeah, sure. I'll get in touch with those people. So he put me in touch with the people at Rumble, and lo and behold, we got basically, the idea behind it to get onto Rumble was to, Rumble had largely been thought of as just like a right-wing YouTube. Like that, if like you were to just tell anybody on the street elevator pitch, what is Rumble? People would say right-wing YouTube. Never really started off as that. The president is like he's definitely not like hardcore right wing. He's the founder and president. But
okay.
The reason why he started it was because YouTube was just railroading a bunch of these smaller content creators. So he wanted to create a competitor that would actually focus on these smaller content creators that are growing. And in the way that Substack was kind of being tarnished earlier this year for being very like transphobic and anti-trans, they hired a bunch of trans writers as a result to try to sort of counteract that narrative. Rumble tried to counteract that narrative of being a right-wing YouTube by bringing on a bunch of libs. So they brought me and Jay on. As well as Glenn and Tulsi and Bridget and Zaid.
And what's funny is that they actually are technically like left-leaning, which you wouldn't know it based on like the current political climate that they're left. But people would accuse them of being like right-wing, because they don't like Hillary Clinton. So,
yeah, I know, right?
But yeah, I mean, nowadays you go on YouTube and it's people who have established themselves as having huge accounts from the early days. I mean, they're still there, and that's good. But it's just a headache now. It's like I remember one time I uploaded for the fun of it. I was like, I want to upload to YouTube just to see how I can, how I can do this. So I uploaded to YouTube like a video of me doing like a some sort of thing at the gym. And months go by, and I come back, and it's like, sorry, we had to like take your video down. I'm like, what was wrong? apparently had copyrighted music. I'm like, copyrighted music? I didn't put any music. The radio faintly in the background in the gym played like some song, and I was like, "Are you kidding? Like really? Like it's such a and being scared of sort of upsetting like this group or that group. It's just very when I think of YouTube, I think of pins and needles. And I think of Jimmy Kimmel, and I think of, Jimmy Fallon, and it's like, it's really not what it used to be. So that's what I mean by Rumble's pretty interesting, because it's almost like the rebirth of the Phoenix. It's like, just burn it all down, start from scratch.
Yeah. You can tell, I mean, and the coverage of that announcement, and I was going to write about this, but then the whole Afghanistan debacle happened. And what they ended up doing was the Washington Post, as well as other corporate media outlets, started branding Rumble as sort of like this, this cesspool of misinformation on COVID. Like, that was the main shot that they took, was that it was spreading anti-vax misinformation about COVID, and that we were basically, by signing up with it, that we were endorsing those views, which is like,
it's bizarre,
a huge stretch. Like, you can be critical.
That's McCarthyism.
Yeah, like you can be critical of like aspects of like how we have handled the COVID pandemic, how we have, say, implemented vaccines, anything from mask mandates to vaccine mandates. You could have that debate all day. None of the people who were joining Rumble were advocating for people to be like anti-vax. Like, you can question stuff and still not be anti-vax. And it was just amazing to me that they went down that route, and they tried to basically smear people like Glenn and Tulsi in the process.
I mean, that's just so bizarre.
Interestingly enough, if you see right down here in Rumble's announcement, they called me a thought leader. Obviously not THOT, but
there you go. Well, we're working on that, Siraj. That's why you're
Michael, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm on the show.
That's right.
You could turn me from a THOUGHT leader to a THOT leader.
I will mold you into the thought leader that you the thought leader that you are inside, because it's all about what's on the inside, but it's not actually.
That's right. On the inside. So that's not board
observers. On the inside,
who told Siraj you button up? Yeah, that's right. It's what on the inside here.
It's not what's on the inside. So I mean, it's been it's so you this has been an interesting journey. I mean, did you ever think you'd be a content creator on some new platform like Rumble and doing what you're doing and basically having like pseudo fame, on Twitter? I mean, people know you like, worldwide, like, wow, worldwide. Yeah. Worldwide, I guess.
Dude,
because I feel like you definitely look at yourself like I look at myself. Like, you're like, I think of myself, I'm like, I'm some asshole, so it's like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I had no idea how any of this shit happened.
It's like,
I just started tweeting, and people started liking my tweets. And initially, I did one of those things where I think people do early on, in which you think you got a fire tweet, so you send it to a bunch of people. I used to do that, and then there was a point at which I was like, I don't need to keep doing this. I think it's annoying people, so I just stopped doing it. And the engage, for some reason, I guess I just kept dunking on people, and I kept dunking on myself, and people really started liking that. So I just kept doing it. And I tried, actually, interestingly enough, one of my friends I used to work with, one of the media startups I was at during my Sirius XM days, the full-time job when I was at Sirius XM. He and I we're still friends to this day, and he started teaching a class. I think it was at George Washington, and he wanted me to speak to his class about like how to like grow an audience and like what I've done in journalism. And this is, I say, like maybe just right after I left the Examiner, so about 6 months ago.
Oh, okay.
And I was telling them that I got to this point by doing what I call mature shit posting. So it's like I'm very professional, but at the same time, very crass, very callous, and very just snarky all the time. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. I'm just going to keep it moving. I'm just going to keep chugging along. If people get pissed off, they get pissed off. I'm just going to keep moving along, keep going. And so that's just kind of been my attitude towards tweeting in general, is that there's always going to be people who are mad at me. I don't need them to waste my time in responding to them. If they don't understand something, they can voice that. They can critique me. I also learned this from another colleague who says, no one's entitled to your time. And I just took that to heart. And it's like, I'm not going to respond to anybody. So it's even become a running joke. I know Damon Toll, Brooklyn Dad, as he's known within the Habibi circle. Every time I do an AMA, ask me anything, I just say, ask me anything. And then I turn off replies and I leave for like 2 hours.
It sounds like to me that it almost sounds like you're describing a comedian, and I mean that like, back to Norm Macdonald. No, but seriously, you sound like you're describing. I don't mean comedian like in the I'm a clown funny, like
sure,
like almost like a stand-up comedy where there's like a sophistication and there's but there's also, well, this is what comedy used to be in the before time. There was there's level of sophistication and truth telling. And a big part of the truth telling is where the comedy is sort of at, and not, sort of caring about what the audience sort of thinks, but the joke, you understand the depth behind it. It's like I've been, like I said, with Norm Macdonald passing, I've been listening to a lot of these interviews and him talking about comedy, and what you just described sounded like what he described in one of these interviews that I was listening to. And I mean that in the best way, I mean that in the best way, because I think, sometimes people who think of themselves as sort of like, I do this all the time, and I know it's annoying. It's like, I just rant and get angry on Twitter and talk about like how the world's falling apart and what we should be doing. And I know it's annoying, but I don't have the control yet to like, put on the brakes and make it funny. But anyway, yeah. But what you've unlocked, I think, is actually like, like I said, it's a comedy, but it's a truth telling there that's really important.
Yeah, and this is kind of how I've always looked at it. I realize that, like, anyone can get pissed off online. Anyone can, tweet about policy, nuance, you name it. And then I just decided, what can I do that's different? And then I was just like, I'll just fucking dunk on everybody and just make jokes all day and be juvenile.
But you still make a point. You make a point, though.
And then, yeah. And then every now and then I can be serious, but mostly because I tweet what's on my mind. Like, sometimes I don't hold back. But like, when I said mature shit posting before, like there's like a meticulousness to it. Like, yes, you tweet like you tweet like you're not thinking, but at the same time you're putting so much thought into it, because for a fact that what's going to get engagement, what's going to get a reaction, and what's going to make a valid point or critique about the thing that you're trying to talk about. And sometimes not all my shit's funny. That's fine. I know not everything's gonna hit,
right?
But I know that there are things that are going, like if I can make things like at least unique enough and get people talking about certain things that maybe like people would start to care about. So like, one of the things that I did, and this is something that has caused I've ruffled a lot of feathers with this, has been the Sharia meme. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Sharia meme, it is literally me standing in front of a map of the United States of America with my like this. Let's get those hands in there.
That's
and
literally
Sharia is literally written right behind me to signify that every single thing that's going to happen is just either I'm calling for Sharia, or we need
it's
Sharia,
on its way,
or it's on its way, or like something happens in the news that Sharia is on its way. So
it's inevitable. Sharia law is inevitable, and you know what? I'm becoming more and more okay with Sharia. I used to rail against what are you leftist? You want Sharia law? Now I'm like, wait a second. Traditionalist values. Wait a second. Are we sure we don't want Sharia law?
Yeah, no, it's funny because, and you know, I was actually I was even a much bigger lib than I am now, and
I've never interviewed a lib before. This is my first time.
Yeah, your first time, right? Yeah. So I was a much bigger lib back in the day. Like the only protest I ever went to was a anti-war protest in 2003.
Mom, sorry, Siraj. Ma, it's a joke, okay? I don't want Sharia law. Let's make that very clear. My mom's watching and she just texted me. She goes, I hope you're joking. I'm joking. I don't want Sharia law. Jeez.
See, even just the mention of it.
Jeez, Mom. You haven't seen me in like 5 months and already you think I've turned to Sharia law. I'm so sorry, Siraj.
Man, you're grounded for this.
Yeah, she's Islamophobic. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? I don't know. But
well, no, this is the thing. Like, there were a lot of people on the right, and I was because I was a big lib in the early 2000s, and the only protest I ever went to was an anti-war protest against the Iraq War in 2003. I was 15 years old. And I thought it was a step too far for the United States to invade Iraq. I didn't think there were weapons of mass destruction. I thought our government was lying to us about that. And lo and behold, we were right. But that's besides the point.
I was probably 21, right? Around 21.
I was 15 at the time
when we invaded Iraq. Oh, the first time. No, what?
How old do you think I am?
No, you're 34 now. I'm 32, and I'm adding 2 to everything. So if 9/11 happened when I was what? Was I 12?
You're probably 11 because I was 13.
I was 11. It was a year later, so you were 15. But I thought it was 2 years. Anyway, it matches up. Yeah, you're right.
My birthday is in a few days, so I was almost 14 when 9/11 happened.
I see. Okay.
So I would have been. Yeah. Anyways,
how old do you think I am?
Yeah, I was like 15 the first time we invaded. 91. What?
But even more to my point, you were 15 at the time. That's pretty damn mature. Like I was so angry at 9/11. I don't know whether it was just because of my personality or what, but I was a Republican even back then. I guess it was just being sort of a Republican and following the thought leaders of the Republicans. I was pro, but looking back, obviously, I think it was wrong. But anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent. I want you to tell the story.
It's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good. So, the older I got, I understood. I was sort of my parents were big Republicans until I think Bush invaded Iraq, and when that happened, we all sort of jumped ship and we all basically became Dems. And interestingly enough, though,
like Osama bin Laden.
No, Osama bin Laden was dumped from a ship.
I'm sorry.
Get it right.
I got to get these jokes in.
So when it came to sort of just like the landscape, the dynamic of sort of like where American Muslims fit into the political dynamic of the United States.
Right.
They initially started off as being very pro-Bush, very pro-Republican because they're more socially conservative, very pro-life. They were for traditional marriage. They were for, traditional family values, you name it. But then when 9/11 happened, and then you had the Patriot Act and the Iraq War, that basically all the American Muslims who were previously Republican were alienated, and then they voted Democrat, and they've voted Democrat ever since. I initially jumped at, even though I couldn't vote at the time. My first election was in 2008. But I voted Democrat 2008, 2012, 2016, and then I wrote in 2020. But that's besides the point. I was alienated by the Democrats by how fucking crazy they were.
Yeah.
And so when I started working in conservative media, knowing full well that I myself am not a conservative, I could at least call out people for doing dumb shit, because I have been so disillusioned by politicians in general that I'll never simp for a politician ever again.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a single politician that I really was big on that broke my heart and changed me. I just never trusted them to begin with.
Yeah. And people
so
confuse you for a conservative because I think I know why. It's because I think right now that the power center of DC politics is Democrat. I'm not even going to say it's left; it's Democrat. And if you're going to speak any truth to power, which I think is your whole deal, which I think most people's deal is, if they're interested in politics in any real way, you're going to really be anti-establishment Democrat. Again, not left, establishment
right.
Democrat.
Yeah,
right. Exactly. So that's why I can imagine people, confusing you for, a staunch conservative, just like they do with, Glenn Greenwald, even Tulsi Gabbard, all these people that we mentioned earlier. So, yeah.
So, but the reason I'm sort of giving you this backstory about a meme about Sharia is because in the mid 2010s, I'd say, the scare about Barack Obama being a Muslim, that scared a lot of Americans, or a lot of Americans thought he was Muslim. I was like, you guys are crazy. He's not Muslim. And so what if he is? That's not a big deal. You can judge him on his own merits. If he I don't think he's a religious guy in general, and there was always a part of me that held out hope that maybe, what if he is Muslim? That'd be pretty cool, right? And then I just took it and ran with it. I was like, yeah, Barack Obama's Muslim, totally. And then I extended it. I found ways to make Trump Muslim, and now I find ways to make Biden Muslim. But the whole thing about the Sharia meme surrounds this idea. This guy Frank Gaffney, he is I don't know how to describe him, but he was definitely on the right. And he had this think tank. And it was called Security Studies Group or something like that. And he constantly wrote about how Sharia was creeping into the United States. He called it creeping Sharia. And so he pointed out different, examples of how, Dearborn, Michigan, they're using Sharia courts, and X, Y, and Z township, they're building a mosque in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and they're building a Ground Zero mosque in
that one was weird though. That one was
the
weird.
Ground Zero mosque was weird. The whole conversation around that was bizarre.
That was weird.
But I took it around with it. I took that idea of Sharia is creeping into the US. I was like, you know what? Let's just have some fun with it. Let's just
so you've been shitposting since before shitposting.
Oh, I think shitposting's been around for quite some time. I mean, people just call it trolling. But when it comes to the Sharia meme, I was just like, let's just find every different example that I possibly can of the United States becoming a Sharia state. And every time I found a headline that looked even slightly like it was falling in line with being, moving in the direction of an Islamic country, I'm like, screenshot of that Sharia meme, and then boom, everyone was knew it was coming. But here's the thing. This is where it got me in real trouble. So I just saw it just got you in trouble with your mom. And it is
Careful,
because there are a lot of people who are very terrified of Sharia. And there are good reason. There's good reason for it. I don't believe in Sharia law, especially as a governing system for this country, because I think right now, at least in theory, what we have in place, our institutions are holding up really well, and I don't think there should be a single religion that dictates our government.
Not even
Sharia,
woke?
obviously. Well, I've never really come from the church of woke before, but that is its own religion. I mean, politics is becoming a religion in general. But my point is about Sharia was that it was one of those things where I would tweet about it, and people didn't really think twice about it. It wasn't until Fox News outed me as a lib for a joke tweet about Vince Vaughn, in which the whole Sharia thing really came to fruition, because Fox News wrote a piece about how I was trying to cancel Vince Vaughn through a joke tweet about how Vince Vaughn was being canceled for simply sitting next to Donald Trump at a college football game. And it was the championship. I tweeted out the next morning. I wake up to a flood of messages saying, people basically wishing death on me, and they're all Trump supporters.
Oh my God.
Based on this Fox News article and them not understanding that it was sarcasm. And then after Fox News changed their story in the digital website, they then ran 2 different segments on their news channel featuring my tweet as the linchpin for the segment.
I remember
about how liberals are trying to cancel Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
And they had my tweet on the fucking giant screen in the New York studio. It was fucking amazing. And so
I thought it was a joke. I thought they were joking with you. Like, I thought they were trolling you. Because I was so absurd, I thought like it had to have been a joke. Like, I thought maybe like Seth Mandel like was like, do this, blah blah.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like that at all. In fact, it was just like the very opposite. So like what ended up happening from that, in order to get them to stop screenshotting my tweet and put it on their airwaves, I basically changed my handle from Siraj Hashmi to Sharia Now in all caps. And then not only did they stop screen grabbing my tweet, my boss called me into his office to chastise me for making it look like the Washington Examiner was endorsing Sharia law. And I was laughing the entire time. He's just like, you think this is funny? I was like, hell yeah, I think it's funny. This is the funniest thing that has ever happened to me. I swear to God, there's nothing can top this. And he's like, this is a really serious issue. I'm like, you think me changing my handle to Sharia Now, me, a Muslim, to Sharia Now, is making it so that the Examiner is endorsing Sharia law in America?
Yeah.
That was pretty funny when it happened. So
that is pretty funny. That is really funny, actually. Holy shit. I had no idea that there was like a bit of a backstory there that was like scandalous at all. I thought it was like lighthearted.
I've never revealed this. I haven't revealed this to many people.
This is a Gaintrust. Yeah, this is a Gaintrust exclusive, folks.
Yeah.
You heard it here, folks. Like and subscribe. I remember the Norm Macdonald reference, by the way. I remember why I brought it up. And you could thank Sharia. We could thank Sharia for helping me bring it up. So Norm was interviewing Margaret Cho. I don't know if you know who she is. She's like an Asian
comedian,
lesbian comedian. And so,
why'd you have to bring up the fact that she's a lesbian? That's completely irrelevant. You bigot.
well, wait. I could make a funny joke, but I would dig a hole way deep.
Just tell your story. I'm getting you off track.
So she's very left wing. Okay, that's why I brought up the lesbian part. Okay, to explain, she's super left wing. Anyway, just kidding. No, so she was very woke. Actually, pretty early. She was early woke. Mm-hmm. And Norm Macdonald made a joke. I think it was about like Muslims or something like that. And she kind of like paused at the joke and was like, you really can't say that because of the blowback, of people. Oh no, she said something like,
You know, you can't say things like that because people associate sort of, you know, terrorists with Muslims, and, you know, it's not all Muslims. And Norm Macdonald, like, he goes, looks at her, he goes, you know what I'm scared of? And she's like, what? He's like, I'm scared of, and he's like, I'm going to do it the way he did it. I'm not being awkward. He was awkward. He goes, you know, I'm really scared of a Muslim getting a hold of a dirty bomb and exploding it over a major city and killing 50 million Americans. And I'm really scared of that because imagine the blowback against innocent Muslims. I just, and she was just like, yeah, like you can't, you completely disarm her. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
that's so good,
so good. And you can imagine Norm.
But like that is like, I know he said that in a joking way, but there are people who actually think that.
I know. That's what's the funniest thing. And she was completely disarmed. I don't remember how she handled it after, but I mean, when I watched that is the ultimate catharsis, because she just came out like policing the language of this comedy like interview between these like really, she's great. I mean, I saw her live, but she was very funny. And she had this like this one part of her skit before she went woke where she like was describing her mother or something like that. And her mother's like, she's like, it's okay to be gay, but why you got to be so gay? It's like she did like the Asian language, the Asian voice and everything like that. It was really funny. But anyway, she's like policing the speech of this like comedy conversation, and Norm just like a stealth bomber, like went right into like the, you know, right in the perfect pocket and just completely disarms her with a really
almost like he got a dirty bomb and exploded it over a major American city, killing 50 million Americans.
And imagine the blowback.
And then the blowback just happened.
Yeah. But anyway, that was why I brought up Norm Macdonald. So I remembered that. Another thing, and I'm gonna wrap it up soon. We're getting close to 2 hours, but well, actually, let me to wrap it up. This will be the last thing we talked about.
Okay.
It's, are you optimistic, pessimistic, unsure about the future? Because right now we're going through a crazy time, you know, just in the world in general. Are you a pessimist? Are you an optimist, or are you something in between? You know,
I'm a realist.
Okay,
I'm a realist.
So a pessimist. Got it.
No, I wouldn't say a pessimist. I wouldn't say pessimist simply because, you know, look, people were very doom and gloom when Trump was in office. And I was like, look, you might be doom and gloom, but everything that you thought was going to be changed is going to be right back to where it was, exactly where like America will persevere. Now, I know that there are a lot of different threats on the horizon, okay? There are things like, say, like the rise of China. A lot of people seem to discount how big of a threat they are to the United States and the rest of the world. And I like to wait on the side of caution and like basically game out every single possibility that I can. But I can tell you that when it comes to, say, this idea of nationalism versus globalism, you know, these two competing overall forces within the United States, it's obviously the globalists who are winning, because the globalists have basically sold out this country and all of our interests to, you know, the Chinese Communist Party, to other entities that basically want to just rob the American people blind. They have no interest in helping the American worker. This is actually where I get a little bit more nationalist on. It's just like the big picture view. It's like, do we actually care about the United States of America? If we do, then we should actually focus on things that actually help Americans. Okay, so when it comes to things like immigration, it comes to things like trade, when it comes to the economy, like, we are very much ill-equipped for competing on the world stage in those areas. Sure, we may have the world's number one economy, but for how long? Okay, because none of our supply chains run through the United States. They all run through China or through another foreign power. Okay, we're basically all of these manufacturing jobs, which maybe Americans don't want these manufacturing jobs. It's a completely different conversation to have. But for the Americans who are, the blue collar workers who, for generations have worked in this, the plant in town, or they worked at a mill or a coal mining coal mine. For a lot of Americans, this is their entire lives. And if you displace them, sure, there are a lot of Americans who will be able to adapt and persevere, but there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be left behind. And when you do that, and I actually find this to be one of the more, this was a good critique made or a good observation made by the Obama administration at the time. It just came at the wrong time. And that is when it came to combating, say, things like radical Islamic terrorism. One of the aspects of it is done on the economic front. So, like, not giving a terrorist a job, but basically giving people jobs so that they don't spend their time trying to basically find other outlets to then become radicalized and say, wait, just jihad and kill a bunch of innocent people. So, like, the Obama administration made that argument at the time, but they were like several steps away from it. So it was just like a bad time to make that critique.
Yeah.
So I think when you focus on the economy, I think overall people are happier. The economy was doing great up until COVID. And, maybe this is a deeper conversation to have about like why COVID happened, but I don't think it was entirely from an accident. I think that, yes, there might be a lab leak, but I think there was some deliberateness about it that doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
And while I always try to avoid putting a tinfoil hat on, I can't help but put a tinfoil hat on when it comes to this, because there are just so many red flags when it comes to what happened in Wuhan that make me think, all of this was done to try to tip an election. You create a bad situation. You take the one blue chip away from Donald Trump, and that is his job with the economy.
Wow. Yeah.
And when you do that, you then make him incredibly vulnerable, so that even his own supporters won't back him, because now they're out of a job or they're shut down or locked down. They don't have their business anymore. Why should they vote for that guy another time if he couldn't keep their business up, if he couldn't keep their job, if they couldn't get any government aid or stimulus? Like that is kind of how overall I feel like we don't really talk about this, but how we talk about how, in 2016, how Democrats talk about how the Russians interfered in the presidential election.
Yeah.
The Chinese interfered in the 2020 presidential election. There's just no question about it. We might think of it differently about how things happen, but ultimately, the Chinese Communist Party, by lying to the World Health Organization and letting a virus break out to the rest of the world, either by covering it up, or whether it was an initial accident and then a cover-up or a deliberate release, they either directly or indirectly interfered in the 2020 presidential election.
Yeah.
And they did it by creating such a hellish situation across the world, but particularly in the United States, so that Donald Trump would not be reelected, and that they would get that the United States would get a president who had a much more amenable position towards China, who, by the way, is Joe Biden. That's been my main. Actually, I've been meaning to make a TikTok about what's the one conspiracy theory I believe. And I had one in my head that I was going to make earlier, but this one, for a fact, this one is going to be the one I'm probably going to go about and make.
It's interesting to see there, and we'll leave off at this. It's interesting to see that their propaganda is very much anti-populist. For example, China. I mean, the state-affiliated media that is on Twitter, you'll often see them making the same talking as the left. I don't mean anti-populist, but it's anti-right-wing, which, to your point, why would they be doing that if they weren't rooting for one side? So you heard it here first, folks. The exclusive TikTok conspiracy theory from Siraj Hashmi, who is a realist, who is got a lot going on now, and I want to thank you for coming on again. It was a lot of fun. We'll do it in the future, and we got to get you bigger than Pedro. And so when everything's settled with the new house and everything,
we'll get there.
Oh shit! Okay, he's on his way. But yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
I
don't flex much, but when I do, you get that.
We got the screenshot now. So, but I'd like to sign off with. I'd like to sign off, traditionally. So you lead the way.
Oh, how do I what? Oh, Habibis, thank you so much for watching, and have a good night. We'll see you. I'll have a stream tomorrow night for the list, and then Habibi Power on Wednesday.
Let's go.
So, assalamu alaikum, Habibis. Have a good night. Michael, thank you so much again, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care, buddy.